Nuke 17.1 adds support for animated Gaussian splats with a new node called GeoSequencer. GeoSequencer takes a sequence of PLY, Splat, or USD files and converts them into time-sampled USD value clip, ready to use with the Nuke's existing Splat toolset. A USD value clip allows for performance gains as USDC files are faster to read than PLYs. Attribute data is loaded as needed rather than all at once, so it's more memory efficient as well. The workflow is simple. Drop in a GeoSequencer node, choose a method that matches your source files, point it at your sequence, and set where the converted files should go. Any attributes in the source are detected automatically, and you choose which ones you want to carry through. Those can then be utilized later on throughout your comp. Once you're ready, hit Generate Clip, and Nuke writes the value clip to disk and drops a ready populated GeoImport node into your node graph. From there, it's standard Nuke, connect it into the 3D system, manage everything in the scene graph, and start working with your animated splats. In this quick example, we're quickly building out a large crowd by using two assets merged together, then using the field nodes to mask a geograde so we can temper any obvious parts that will show up when duplicated. From there, we can offset the time and merge it back into the tree to create this large crowd. We can then use the updated GeoExport node to write out our merged animated asset as one file. We'll explore more options of the GeoExport a little later on. Also new for Splats in 17.1 is relighting. The Splat render node now supports rendering direct, point, and spotlights placed in the 3D system, so you can do basic relighting of splat scenes and elements to sit them better in your comp. Enable it from the new relighting dropdown in Splat Renderer, then light your splats the way you'd light any 3D scene using Nuke's standard 3D lights. The implementation is purely volumetric, so you don't need normals or position data in your splat to get a relighting result. It works on the splats as captured. Shadows are fully controllable per light with strength, softness, resolution, and bias, all adjustable so you can dial in exactly how the splats sit in the shot. And if your splat does carry normals or position data, Splat Render can now render those out as AOVs from the new Outputs tab, ready to be used anywhere else in your comp. Between GeoSequencer and relighting, 17.1 makes Gaussian splats a practical part of your comp. Bring them in animated, sit them in the shot, and work with them using the tools you already know. The 3D viewer now runs on Hydra 2.0. Set the renderer knob and you're looking at your scene through an actual render delegate. GL by default, or Moonray, RenderMan, Cycles, whatever Hydra 2.0 render delegate you've got installed, so Nuke matches the rest of your pipeline. Hydra needs lights to show materials. This particular scene brings its own lighting via USD, so let's go ahead and disable the headlight in the scene. And the new GeoRender node brings that render into comp with the delegate's own passes. Depth, normals, whatever it exposes. If your delegate doesn't expose any outputs, you can build them directly in Nuke. Until now, exporting a USD stage out of Nuke flattened it. One layer, the structure's gone, even if you only moved one item. In 17.1, it's non-destructive by default. GeoBreakLayer marks the boundary. Everything above it drops out, and what's left in between and GeoExport is what gets written to file. GeoExport's new export method defaults to flatten sublayers, keep references, so your edits go out as overs and the original references and variants survive. And it's not just USD anymore. GeoExport writes OBJ, FBX, and Splat files. Then GeoImport reads that layer back on its own so you can see the overs and check what you've sent. Holdout's got a proper treatment as well. Set cutout enable on a shader using ScanlineRender2 and it becomes a formal holdout. Unlike the old fill mat, it holds out alpha and coverage as well. Data AOVs like depth stay put unless you switch on cutout data AOVs, which are deliberately separate so you can still Z-merge. Also in 17.1, the 3D viewer picks up a set of UI updates aimed at speed. There's a new display menu in the 3D viewer giving you quick access to your display settings, including USD display purposes, light setup controls, and 3D view options. And the 3D toolbar gains quick access toggles for your most used view options so you're not opening properties mid-review. Flip the lights in your scene on or off instantly, toggle the view headlamp for faster previews while you're working, and switch the 3D grid off when you want a clean, uncuttered viewport for review. Transform space and transform tools have been simplified into toggles as well, so placing assets, making layout changes, and switching between tools is instant without breaking your flow. Graph scope variables get a tidier variables tab. Create a variable and it arrives already selected, so you can start typing straight away. Drag variables around to reorder and group them, undo and redo those moves, and the order you set is still there the next time you open the project. This EXR carries 81 layers, 242 channels, every light broken out into its own diffuse, specular, GI, and emission pass. Every channel that loads takes a slot in Nuke's channel system, which caps at 1024. So the read node now has expression-based channel filters. You write a pattern for the channels you want, and those are the only ones that load. Nuke 17.1 also brings a round of codec and format updates, keeping Nuke current with the latest camera SDKs so you can bring footage straight into your comp without transcoding. Nuke can now read and process ProRes RAW natively, giving you the flexibility of RAW with the performance of ProRes in a format built for HDR content. Whether it's coming off a cinema camera or a high-quality iPhone shoot, that footage now drops straight into Nuke. ARRI support moves up to Image SDK 901 and ARRI MXF 4410. The ARRI Core codec gains a new decode quality knob, combining input binning for ARRI RAW with proxy mode for ARRI Core, so you can trade resolution for speed while you work and switch back for final render. Blackmagic RAW moves to the latest camera SDK, adding new metadata controls and support for every camera shipped with BMDRaw since the latest update. And this includes cinema cameras and the Ursa series.
Start with the picture itself, because in 17.1 it's better. The legacy transformation filtering has been replaced with bilinear across the viewer, monitor out, and GeoExport. So what you see while you review is what lands in the output, with next to no performance cost. The rest of the review work is all about context, seeing a shot next to the versions and the stages around it, without rebuilding your workspace every time. So everything from here is on Nuke Studio timeline, with each track holding a different stage of the shot, storyboard, plate, or a comp, for example. Say you gave a note, a new version came back, and you need to know what was done. Put both viewer buffers on the same track and version compare switches itself on. Press V and roll the B buffer back a version. B is independent, so your edit hasn't changed and there is nothing to undo. Then set the compare stack to, let's say, difference blending, and now the only thing on screen is what has actually changed. Burn-ins take more than list preset now. Any of the 6 fields will take a metadata key the source media carries, your own free text or a TCL expressions that evaluates at render time. So you can mix static labels with live values like current frame, and this works in the node graph and also on the timeline. The contact sheet is saved per sequence now, so it comes back the way you left it. And Shift-H cycles 3 ways of filling it. Pick shots by hand, pull every shot with the same corrector together, and you can see straight away that they haven't been color corrected yet. Or by track, so the stages of a shot sit side by side. Or by tag, and everything marked sunny loads at once. Each cell carries a HUD you build from the metadata tokens, the same way the burn-ins work. And the stack view allows you to flip between display cells in a stack where you can spot any potential inconsistencies. Annotations get the shapes. Press E and you're drawing rectangles and arrows instead of scrolling freehand, which matters if you're reviewing with mouse rather than a tablet. And rectangles take a fill with one-click toggle for 50% transparency, so you can highlight an area without hiding what's underneath.
If you're driving a broadcast monitor, Monitor Out interactive mode stops inheriting the resolution of your timeline viewer. Shrink the viewer to make room for other panels, and the monitor stays sharp and correctly framed. It also carries its own color transform, so you can set ACES on the desktop and Rec 2020 on the broadcast feed at the same time.